Welcome to Philly Tech Connect podcast, where Philly's tech minds meet. CEOs, developers, dreamers. This is your space. Each week we explore the journeys of tech innovators. Join us and be inspired.
Hey everyone, Dave here with another episode of the Philly Tech Connect podcast. Today I'm speaking with Will Schmahl, a repeat founder and the visionary behind HousMthr, an AI-powered app revolutionizing group travel and stay management. A former Airbnb superhost and tech leader, Will combines deep industry knowledge with technical expertise to simplify travel logistics. From selling his first business at 17 to leading groundbreaking ad tech initiatives at AOL, Will has a proven track record of transforming innovative ideas into impactful solutions. Will, how you doing?
Good. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. You guys presented, geez, maybe a year ago at our first pitch event that we did. So it was really cool, kind of, getting an introduction into the concept. And I suspect there's probably been some changes over that time period. So tell us a little bit about your background in the travel space and your experience being an Airbnb superhost.
Sure. My career started out in the MarTech ad tech industry, but I've always been a traveler like everyone else. But really my roots in the travel industry, really from an aspect of being an operator, was having a beach house out on Fire Island, New York, that I share every summer for the last 26 years with my sister, splitting the house, between her friends and my friends and our family. And that kind of brought me into then, buying some properties down in Fort Lauderdale and becoming a Airbnb host, and also having a combination of me hosting my friends or family, which is actually probably more of a nightmare than being an Airbnb host, as you can imagine, right? Because when you're splitting, time with your friends or family, you always want to, as a planner or, that host kind of, mentality, want to be able to have everyone have the best experience, as well as you want to kind of alleviate yourself from having a nightmare experience. So it's quite a interesting, thing to have to balance, I would say. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I can imagine it's tricky. I've never owned property with another individual before, especially one that you rent out to others. Even if it's, a sister, close relative, I can imagine that there are, I don't know, potential conflicts. What dates does each person get? What are the kind of general rules that everyone wants to abide by? Was that your experience as well? And is this kind of prompt the idea for HousMthr?
Yeah, so I mean, House Mother, exactly. You hit it right on the head. I mean, really, it's about the organization and optimization of your in-stay or on trip, right, needs. And that is coordinating dates, who wants to, who's sick and can't attend, who wants to not coming out, to the beach house because it's raining, all these other things that come into play, as well as just organizing what's in the fridge, right? From week to week. I mean, so when you're, specifically for the house that I have, which is on an island, right? So you have a lot of other things that play, like who's coming on what ferries, right? You only have one supermarket that is very high priced, right? And do you want to optimize everyone's budget, right? To, how, what they're bringing, who's bringing what, all those other things, and not be, have, I don't want to say short change, but not have what you need in that moment, right? So, makes it a little bit more interesting, but really that's where HousMthr came into play, where I wanted to be able to have less of responsibility only on myself, and kind of, have everyone in the know about what's going on in the house, as well as, being able to optimize if we had other people coming into the house, right? So that, HousMthr was really, we don't do booking per se, but what we do is that you could come into HousMthr as a, just a traveler, and you could search for houses that potentially or groups that have a bed or a room that's open. And you could actually see matching interests and likes, and you could, then message that HousMthr, right? The planner of that house, or the, or it could be a host per se. And you could actually say, hey, I'm interested in this week, and have a conversation offline. We don't handle the economics of booking, as as far as an Airbnb, but what you can do is the house mother could say, yeah, we'll invite you to our week, right? And from there, the house mother could add you to the house or into that room, and you could potentially pay through the shared expenses of the app, right? So then you'd be added to the house. They could then bill you through the actual app, and that's the booking per se that we do. But our goal is to be agnostic to the booking of accommodation, and hopefully, we're raising funding right now. We're looking to white label our app to license to any host or accommodation platform like Airbnb or Booking.com to actually then be able to get your itinerary, your house, and then be able to just, automatically just use HousMthr as your on tripper and stay like group management for that trip. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of travel. I was a backpacker for years, and obviously still kind of continue to take vacations with the family. And it feels like, the booking kind of process has sort of been done before. We can kind of book places.
It's
There's a
a
number of
focus.
platforms,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
But then afterwards, it's usually you show up, maybe you get an onboarding document, maybe not. There's not like a lot of it's obviously written. It's not really digital, like digitized. So it sounds like you're kind of trying to handle the next step of like the stay management. And I'm hearing like a couple different use cases. There's like the house mother, owner of the property, and maybe they're using their property maybe within their family. Maybe they're letting it out to a stranger, like someone actually is booking. And then there's also the perspective of, travelers booking place. So is it kind of handle those two or three different use cases?
Yeah, definitely. So our focus has been trying to stay outside of I'd say the host ecosystem from an aspect of we don't want to build tools for hosts, right? Granted, I'm a host, right, in my house, but I'm in the house with the people that I'm in, right? So like that's a little bit of a different scenario. We're focused on that's the only use case really that we're trying to facilitate being part of the host or operator ecosystem, right? Now, granted, I say that and then we're going to try to build a white label to have the other side of the B2B business, right? But the reason why I'm very focused on that, perspective for the traveler is that right now all the tools that are out there that if in travel tech are about pre-trip booking, they're about getting your dollars right as travelers, they're about optimizing get hosts, right? And there really isn't a centralized, non-biased tool only for, travel, right? For guests, right? So that's the sweet spot of where we're trying to move HousMthr and facilitate us as a platform, right? Now our focus has been in the short-term rental seasonal houses, specifically because those users have multi-weeks, right? We're really good at handling that for a group, right? So if you have 5 weeks in a house in the Hamptons, or say like Rehoboth Beach, right? Or a ski house, right? We're really good at optimizing that. Now, by us being non-biased and only focusing on travelers, from an aspect of not getting hosts involved, we feel that we have a strategy long term as we implement AI into our tool, right? We're now building safety and reward mitigation tools, which is what I call them, which basically will not only keep your group safe and aware of what's going on through connecting into data sets that are coming from local authorities, information from your other travelers, right? So say if you have a group that's traveling, someone's on the beach, someone gets pulled out, through a riptide, right? Our hope is that what we're building is that you could automatically just through audio, SOS HousMthr as an app, right? If you're on the beach and you're trying to help that person, that would automatically ping the rest of your friends that are out on that island or wherever you are, right? Letting them know that there's emergency, this is where you are, right? And then simultaneously, it will then patch in 911 local where you are, that destination, to notify them where you are and then patch them in immediately in whatever language that you need, right? So that's like one aspect we're focused on. And if we got hosts involved, it just would muddy the waters. We only want to focus on the people on trip, right? So that's basically our kind of our gimmick, right? Or what we're trying to really stay focused on, because all the other companies that are, adding and implementing AI machine learning into their tools, and this Google, Expedia, they're all still looking to optimize making dollars, right, for their affiliate sales, right? And that's not what we're about. We're about helping people on trip and in stay, optimizing their trip. And right now, even though our focus has been the multi-week or seasonal rental, right? Really, that's because of the fact that those people use our apps 9 months out of the year because they're paying for their houses opposite seasons. So it's kind of a sweet spot for us. And no one's focused there, but it gives us a lot of use cases. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Yeah.
For sure. I hear a lot about when you use the word group often, and on the website that's also very prominent as opposed to, maybe like an individual or unit family. Is that mainly because when another party gets involved, like the complexity just amplifies that much and you have to be thinking about how we're going to split the cost, how we're going to split XYZ? Is that why that kind of feels like maybe priority number one for you guys?
I think it's because typically, I've known for myself, I've only been on one trip by myself. You know, most people are you're going to travel two plus more people, right? Our app could be really utilized two plus more people, right? For whatever needs that you want it to. It's the shared expenses, shared lists. Is it the, optimization of, just getting information about around where you're staying, right? Those are things that HouseMthr could produce, right, as an app. But I think that, our goal as a group, tool is just that I think that really that's the biggest pain point, right? I think in travel in general, because one person can miss a taxi to the airplane, right, or to the airport, and it's a snowball effect, right? We're focused there because that's probably the biggest pain point. And honestly, if you think about it, there really isn't tools that focus on that. There
Yeah.
aren't,
Yeah. You brought up AI earlier and some insights into how it's impacting the travel space.
Yeah.
We went on a trip recently to Japan and we were using ChatGPT to help plan it out and provide suggestions. I think that's kind of the obvious thing that
Yeah.
probably travelers are doing right now. As someone who's more involved in travel tech, what else are you seeing or expecting in terms of the way travel might evolve, with more AI support?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So you kind of hit on the head that it seems that the travel industry is using AI, right? Definitely for the, standard, I guess, the fast response, right, to information. The way I see that it should be used, and it's going to take a while for it to get good, right? I think that you could have, and the reason why, and this is kind of another reason why I love HouseMthr so much, is that we're actually the first app that is truly on trip with people, right? Now, granted, we're a utility app right now, right? Really, our functionality is you put inputs and you get outputs, right? Meaning that you share expenses, share like you need to interact with the app, right? We're not proactive yet, right? And that's what we're building, and also why we're raising funding to build out that stuff. But the way we look at it is that AI could be very much used in the travel industry as not only a on trip like tool that taking data, right? And the data that we're collecting in the shared chat, right, that we have with groups, no one's sitting there right now. And I think that's if you look at what Airbnb and everyone's trying to get on trip with people because really the reality is that they're operators that they sell you accommodation and then they're like, okay, how do we get on trip with these people, right? And that's what they're trying to do. And essentially, I don't think it'll ever happen for a company because no one wants to buy or put all their eggs in one basket, right? Like it's like you don't. You want options, you want non-biased, like you want to get information from your friends, from your like what you read, right? So I think that, the way I see AI, the industry really needs to go is that until people find that the data is clean or up to date, which kind of can never happen because things close down, businesses change, right? It's just how it is, right? But I think that when you look at like TripAdvisor, right, who's been around for years, a lot of their data is old, right? It's not up to date. It's, ChatGPT is pulling from those sources, right? It's not like, so I think that really AI in the travel industry needs to be applied from an aspect of a community attached to a a destination or group, right? That's how I see it as, because if you think about it this way, if you build a community, right, based on a destination, so I'm going to Japan, like you said, right?
Good.
Great trip, right? No, I'm saying like,
Oh, okay. Well, hypothetically.
yeah,
Cool. Okay.
yeah, which one of my favorite trips ever, right? I did 3 weeks Japan. I flew to Tokyo,
Yeah.
took the train all the way down south, and went town to town for 3 weeks. Amazing time. End of October, did Halloween, amazing, right?
Nice.
Now, what would have been amazing on that trip is that if I could connect to the community, right, being Japan, and then go into by each location I'm going into a sub community that AI would then connect into like what's going on in each destination, right, during like down to the community level, right? Taking that data, plug it into like, what me as a group or people like travelers traveling, right, are interested in, and then kind of giving you information based on that. That's where the industry needs to use AI, right? And I
Yeah,
think that
these
right now, for the time being, we probably have 3 years before the travel industry is done with like optimizing, like making money for their affiliates, right? Right now, that's all they're focused on, right? It's not really about making trips better. It's about making, yes, it may seem like that on a marketing level, but reality is they're optimizing more sales for their who they're selling for. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like lacking in that sort of personalization, the relevance. As we mentioned, we use kind of ChatGPT a bit for the trip planning, and it's good to a degree, but you'll get a restaurant that's out of business, or a train that no longer runs the way
Yeah.
it did. What you're talking about, it sounds like the groups, the user-generated content is going to be up to date because people are talking about, hey, there's a festival going on right now, there's this music event happening, and then kind of understanding, okay, well, that's going to appeal to you because you're into, that type of genre, whatever it might be. And that's how you get to stumble across something that you wouldn't find from a static article that was written 2 years ago because,
Yeah.
it just wasn't happening then. Cool insights, Will. You mentioned, you guys are doing a white label. Curious to hear what's next for HousMthr and how people can learn more about, the app and you.
Yeah, sure. So what's next for us is really we've been pretty quiet in the marketing front because we've been really diving into the data. And right now, with the funding we're raising, as you mentioned, we're going to be white labeling. But the biggest thing we've been doing is building our use cases of like ways we could optimize on trip. And what we're trying to do is that the way we look at AI and how we're going to make money is that we're looking to take where you're traveling as a user, and we're taking the data of the destination businesses and the community like offers. It's tours, it's like mom and pop shops, it's fashion designers that could offer you like a fitting for your group, right? For the afternoon with a wine tasting or something, right? We're looking at those types of experiences, and which are already out there marketing, being marketed to tourists, but it's being offered to them pre-trip. We're looking to take that model and offer it on trip, same day, or like while you're actually on the trip, right? But at a 30% minimum cost savings, right? Filling inventory that's not filled. So that's kind of what's next for us is that we want to change a market where we could actually lower costs but fill inventory that's not being filled for operators, right? That's how we see that like where HousMthr is going to be playing, how we're going to make revenue, right? How we're going to have a very niche in the market, and we be able to actually fill inventory that normally would be empty. And that includes a 8 top table at a restaurant that would be sitting empty that could match to a group that maybe kind of was on the fence about where to go to dinner, right? And now we filled up that inventory, right? And they get 30% off. So that's kind of where we're going towards. Um, for us, we're doing a big push right now. We're looking for more users, right, to test and give us feedback. So please reach out. My information's on our website, housemother.com. You can also reach me on LinkedIn. I'm always available. I love doing, networking calls with anyone in any aspect. Networking advisors, we're also looking for right now. And, even partners. We're looking for some strong partners that understand the real estate ecosystem, and that's from real estate brokers that are in niche markets like doing seasonal rentals to partners, right? We're looking for, resort partners like Marriott and companies like that actually have a wide range of different resort or offerings that could fit into the HousMthr box as their guest tool for testing. So we'd love to talk to people like that too. I'm always available at will@housemthr.com.
Love it. Thanks so much, Will, for being on the show. And that's HousMthr spelled HousMthr.com. Am I right?
Yes, thank you very much.
Cheers, Will. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Dave.
That's all for today's episode of Philly Tech Connect. Join our community at phillytechentrepreneurs.com. Special thanks to our sponsor, shortlist.io, a digital marketing agency specializing in top-notch link building, content strategy, and web design. Stay innovative, Philly, and see you next time on Philly Tech Connect.